Lawful Stupid is a D&D 5th edition actual play podcast who actually love to play. They love everything about the tabletop RPG community and consistently strive to make the world a better place within that community through inclusivity, creativity, charitable acts, and above all else, fantastical heroism. If you want to be part of the amazing D&D community of artists, creators, and all-round amazing fun people that we are building, then please consider joining their Discord. You can also find them on Apple Podcasts under Lawful Stupid Podcasts. And now, I'm with the show. Welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for February. How long can you keep that going? I have no idea. It's almost going so far, it's almost going into like some kind of meow. I don't know what is kind of going on. It's a clash between maybe a cat and maybe some kind of, I don't know, some kind of fight going on, some kind of fight club. If you're going to do some kind of fight club, would you just bring a cat to a fight club, or would you want to bring something else, maybe something a bit more metallic, maybe like a robot? There's only one thing to do. How am I going to find out more about this? How am I going to discuss? Who am I going to discuss it with? So, joining me from Needy Cat Games, I've got James Hewitt. He is here to talk about Robot Fight Club, which is coming to Kickstarter very, very soon. How you doing, James? You well?
I'm doing great, thank you. That was a masterful bit of segue in that intro there. That was fantastic. You can tell you're an old hand at this.
It's either that or what I'm doing is I say to people, I'm writing it out 5 or 6 times and I'm just picking the one that I want to go with. But you know what?
Yep.
I'm too lazy to do that.
Absolutely.
And it would take imagination, and sometimes you know you've got it.
Yep.
And other times you know you haven't got it.
You feel it slipping away from you as you're saying it.
It's like I don't think I've ever had to edit one of these intros once, and I think I've only edited it to add extra stuff in from the beginning when we were in the green room and talking
fantastic.
Even more kind of nonsense. How you doing? First of all, you doing well? Are you
good, man. Good. We're hitting like a culmination of a lot of work here. So Robot Fight Club is hitting Kickstarter in just over a week as we record this, and you know it's kind of been a long time coming. Not just the actual game itself, but the whole process of us as Needy Cat Games putting out a game for ourselves. So there's been a lot of long hours, sleepless nights. You know, it's been... I've not really had time off in about 2 years, so I'm either going completely insane or I'm about to evolve into a higher form. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, I'm excited for next week.
It could be the case that you're just imagining you're on a podcast at the moment, and it is actually a proper Fight Club moment.
It absolutely could be, couldn't it?
I am the personification of the other person you think you're speaking to on the other side.
You are James's slow descent into madness.
I am, yeah, exactly. I am, I am James's potential Kickstarter.
Yeah,
but that kind of thing. But no, I can understand that because am I right in saying like? Well, I'm not going to say I'm right, I'm saying, because like, that would be lying, because Sophie's been on the show, so anything that I'm guessing is a case of whether or not I'm remembering or not. But you basically work with a lot of other companies out there, kind of creating stuff for them, producing things for them, you know, kind of things. So is it a case of you kind of like feast, preparing for the famine type thing? So when you're saying you've not had a day off in like 2 years, it's because you got to get the work in, just
pretty
in case,
much.
Kind of
yeah,
thing.
I mean, I've been a self-employed creative man for 2.5, nearly 3 years now, and so before I was working for Games Workshop as a game designer, and that's a lovely situation because you're doing a very silly job. You're designing games, but you're getting a steady monthly pay slip. You're getting holiday pay. You're getting sick pay. All those sorts of things, which are quite rare in this industry. And then, we took the leap of faith, and all of that kind of goes away, and you just have the constant fear. And I've spoken to people who have been, freelancers for decades. It never really goes away. Like you say, that feast famine situation is, you're always, a worryingly short amount of time away from not being able to pay the bills. So the last couple of years has kind of been a lot of say yes to pretty much everything, just in case. Over the past 6 to 9 months, I think we've managed to get to a point where we can be a little bit more choosy with what we take on, which is nice. We can try having more control over the work we do. And I think we're probably once this Kickstarter's out of the way and we've got the couple of other projects we've got on the go out of the way, we're going to be in a position to hopefully take stock and then plan a bit more going forward, because planning hasn't always been our strongest suit. And so it would be nice to kind of plan in things like the occasional holiday or short break. I've heard mini breaks are nice. You can just go somewhere and stay in a hotel. That would be lovely.
You don't have to go somewhere with no internet access.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the thing about being always kind of online.
Yeah, I removed my work email account from my phone. Got rid of the work Facebook, because I've got a work Facebook and a normal Facebook, and which I don't really use the normal Facebook anymore, apart from showing photos of our daughter to family who are on the other side of the country. But I went through a whole digital cleanse kind of thing, just turned it all off. And then it's gradually crept back, just because, actually, I need to go on my emails to do this. And, once it's back on there, you don't turn it off. And, it is difficult to switch off, because when you are working for yourself, especially with, Sophie and I have, we're a couple. We make no secret of that. We've been together for about 15 years now. When you live together, you work together, you don't ever really switch off. You'll just have a chat over dinner, which turns into a chat about, manufacturing or fulfillment or something. We spent Valentine's Day demoing Robot Fight Club. It becomes a life you lead, but that's okay.
Do you have to be disciplined then? Do you have to have a time during the week where you say, nah, this is, it's an hour or half an hour or 2 hours or whatever, where we're just staying away from the job kind of thing? I think in order to kind of have a bit of peace of mind, a bit of sanity.
Absolutely. I think the benefit of us having a 4-year-old is we have family time, and so generally on a Saturday or Sunday we'll go out for a walk in the country or go somewhere or do something, and that is very much, work is not happening at that point. And so our daughter Lily kind of acts as, a balance in a lot of ways. If it weren't for that, I think, it would be very difficult. And I think you're right. You definitely need to have time set aside. It was worse when I first started Needy Cat, because Sophie sort of joined about 6 months in. She was kind of helping out in the, behind the scenes for the first 6 months while she was still working as an archaeologist. I don't know if she spoke about that. She was an archaeologist for a few months. And then, she came and joined Needy Cat full time. But when it was just myself, I was working from home in the spare room, and that was so difficult because you're never not at work. You can always just, I'll do a couple more emails, or I'll do another bit on this game, especially when you're designing games, which is, it's a hobby of mine. I've always done it. And so it's very difficult to switch off. And it's nice, at least now we have an office, 10-minute walk away from home. So it's close enough that I can come in here at 9 o'clock at night and record a podcast without it being too much of a hassle. But also it's far enough away that at 5 o'clock we close the door and it's very much here rather than at home.
Was that like a conscious decision as part of the setup to say, right, okay, as we're aware, because it both sounds, because from what I get from Sophie when I spoke to them, and definitely what I get from yourself as well, is you're both very driven, kind of individuals, and I reckon if it was the case, you would actually be kind of jotting down notes.
Yeah, almost
as
certainly.
You were talking to people.
Well, funny story.
You're checking stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Robot Fight Club came about because we tried having a night off. We decided to go for dinner. Just the two of us. We got my mum to look after Lily for the night, and we went out and had some sushi. We thought have a nice sushi dinner, and then while we were sat there in the restaurant, we just went, I think we're in a pretty good place to do our own game. What should we do? And then, on the back of a napkin, we scribbled down the first kind of ideas for what became Robot Fight Club. So I think you're right. I think we're both people who we really enjoy just doing stuff. We really enjoy, making projects happen and doing things. We've always, both of us, found any kind of job we've done quite restrictive because, when you're working for someone else, you're, by the very nature of it, you're stuck to doing things a particular way or doing just particular things. Whereas now we can say, let's do a Kickstarter, let's launch a game design course, let's set up a tabletop industry networking group. Someone, ideally, at some point will tell us to stop and have a day off, but hasn't happened yet.
Is that because you're still kind of having fun? Do you ever wake up and go, I could be, doing something else. I could be doing the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I could be utterly, finding it frustrating or bored, or because I know a lot of people who they're in a job because they're in a job.
Yeah.
And the creative side of them, they do it through a hobby. And there's a lot of people I know nowadays that it's like people. I heard even a phrase today. Somebody talking about there's people who have hobbies, but there's also a trend for people who, when they're doing a hobby that they enjoy, they almost end up looking for a way to monetize it.
I've heard that.
In order to be able...
Yeah, I've seen that discussed quite a lot lately. It seems like at the moment there is this drive to monetize your hobbies, and if you enjoy playing D&D, why don't you start a stream? If you enjoy painting, why don't you do it on Twitch or something? And I think it's interesting. I think, for myself, I'm always very aware. I try to stay very consciously aware that this is a job that, I love this. This is what I've wanted to do my whole life. Design games and things, and I have done my share of dull 9-to-5 jobs. I spent many years as a benefits advisor, which was exactly as thrilling as it sounds. And when I was doing that, I was doing a lot of writing in the evening because the day job was just there to pay the bills, and the whole way through the day I'd be just kind of jotting down ideas in a notebook, then get home and go and do writing. And so I've done a lot of that. And as soon as I started doing this, when I was starting at Games Workshop, I kind of made a promise to myself, if I ever start taking this job for granted, I need to sit up and take a real, take stock of the situation, because I've done much worse things. What's interesting is when you go to Games Workshop's head office into the design studio, you can spot the people that have never worked anywhere else. The ones that have, they joined the studio at 18 and they've kind of they've been there for 20, 30 years. And this is the one job they've ever done because I think they do to a degree almost take it for granted. And I think they don't know, without wanting to sound funny about it, they don't know what it's like out there in the big scary world of dull jobs.
Yeah, Games Workshop's one of these few. Fantasy. You could say Fantasy Flight as well, but Games Workshop is to me the one of these things it seems to have been a constant.
Yeah,
I remember seeing my first issue when I bought, when they did a huge thing on I think it was Space Crusade.
Yeah,
and they did some extra stuff, and I remember going through those days, and it's always been like a constant kind of there. I can't think of any other kind of connection in the hobby that's even been a constant. Even if you look at, as I say, like Fantasy Flight games and things like that, they seem to be at the moment kind of going through fluctuations because of money and stuff like that, and it's like kind of like where's the kind of the stability? So while the entire hobby seems to be growing, and people are talking about, it's millions for this Kickstarter, and it's millions for this, and it's millions for that, there's still, it's almost like it's kind of like built on lots and lots of spaghetti dried spaghetti.
It really is.
And all
it
the
really,
boats are
really
kind of
is.
leaning on that.
Yeah.
And all it takes is a couple of bits of pressure in the wrong areas,
Yep.
and you see these things start to, like
Asmodee,
for instance.
Yeah.
The
recent
venture capitalists
layoffs.
going think, that was,
But I mean, GW had that back in the day. I mean, I remember when I first started working for the company. So I was working for Games Workshop Retail back in 2002. That was when I first joined. It was when it was in the middle of Lord of the Rings, and they had the kind of part work magazine out in WH Smith's, with it was just pulling people in. So we had more customers coming in than we knew what to do with. And the company made a load of money, and there was a huge kind of bubble. If you look back at the share reports from around then, there's a huge spike. And then the moment the Lord of the Rings film stopped coming out and that was no longer the flavour of the week, it popped, and it dropped off massively, and there were pretty hefty staff layoffs around then. I know a lot of people who lost jobs, especially around head office around that time. Also, there was massive scaling back in the retail side of things. That's when the infamous Games Workshop one-man store model came about. I was one of the first 6 one-man store managers. I was on the pilot scheme, and we said, "This ain't gonna work. This is crazy." And they went, "Yeah, well, maybe it will though," and so they carried on. But so I think even Games Workshop was kind of set to that. But what they did in that time, they were quite clever. The money they got from Lord of the Rings, they invested very wisely, paid off all their debts, bought the land that their factories and things are on. So they're a very resilient business now as a result, even though there were lots of kind of ground level losses in the business. But I mean, Fantasy Flight / Asmodee, you look at that, and what I find fascinating is it's this company in this constant state of flux and change. It's coalesced out of different smaller studios that have been pulled together, and then there are, I can't imagine what it must be like working for one of these smaller studios that kind of gets subsumed, and then for a year or so everything stays the same. You're just told, carry on, keep making games, and then there's suddenly a reshuffle, and now you're just part of a department, and now all the higher level people in your in what was your studio, which is now your department, are either moved elsewhere or they're got rid of. I don't know. It must be a really unstable environment. I would love to chat to someone who's kind of worked in one of those, Plaid Hat or Z-Man, or one of the companies that's kind of been eaten by the Asmodee beast.
I had Jerry Hawthorne on the show. Literally about 3-4 weeks ago now, and one of the first things he said was, I guess we need to talk a little bit about the kind of the Asmodee kind of situation.
Yeah.
My fear at the moment for Asmodee is it's venture capitalists that are involved.
Yeah.
And these guys are like, they're vultures. They're well known for taking on companies, running up huge debts, and pulling the companies kind of down. And I remember when Esdevium first were taken over by Asmodee, and folk were going, not sure about this.
Yeah.
And I know that as time goes on, people are going, I'm not sure who's running the company, if it's somebody that's interested in making games and entertainment, or if it's somebody that's just interested in kind of squeezing the sponge as dry as they can get, and then just, leaving the dregs for everybody to kind of pick over. But we'll kind of see.
Yeah.
Welcome to Business Hour on We're Not Wizards.
This is the stuff that we talk about. So I say we run these industry network events because Nottingham is where we are, is a place full of the games industry. Games Workshop's here, loads of other companies are here. We've got Aconite Books, which is the Asmodee licensed book type wing. They're just down the road from us. So we've got like a whole load of stuff, and what happened was we realised that we kept going to like Essen or UK Games Expo and chatting to people who we knew, our friends in the industry. We'd chat to them for 5 minutes and go, "I'm so sorry, I'm really busy, I've got to get going," and we wouldn't see them until the next show. And we all lived within like 10 minutes of each other, and this was ridiculous. So we were like, we need to organise something. So we just started getting together and having drinks and things, and now we have like a monthly coffee morning, a monthly social. We've got other events that we do as well around that. But this is the kind of chat we have. We just sit around and talk about really dull, like, business stuff that no one else would care about. None of our friends would, for a moment, want to sit and talk about the structural fluctuations in Asmodee entertainment, you know. And yet here we are.
You know what, the recurring theme that I see again and again and again in me talking to a lot of designers and people who are running Kickstarter projects is that they're standing on the creative tracks and then they get hit by the business train.
Absolutely.
Because they all of a sudden realise it's like, oh, I've got to make this official and I've got to get myself an accountant and and then I've got to look at tax returns and I've actually got to try and work out how to do shipping. And I think that kind of, I think it's one of these things that, because it's still, and there's, you know, obviously there's the Simons of this world, and you know, there's Mantic, and there's, you know, all these other guys involved in Kickstarter, and they know what they're doing, and they just get it sorted out and everything like that. But then there's other people, I see it again and again and again, where they have to put out the kind of you can tell that they've just realised they've now got to shell out an extra couple of grand where they didn't realise they've kind of got to get it before. And I'm wondering if people are having enough discussions about the business side of Kickstarter on a regular basis to make sure people are informed.
I think you're right. It's a thing that we really try to help, like with our local gang. We try to make sure anyone who's doing a Kickstarter, we take them to one side and say, have you considered this and this and this? We've got some people locally who are really good. So Chris Palmer, who used to run the Kickstarters for Mantic, I think in the top like 10 highest grossing UK board game Kickstarters, like 6 of them were run by him. And he is local. He will happily sit people down and talk them through their stuff, you know. And I think it's like you say, it's absolutely vital, because there are so many pitfalls. You know, things like import tax. People just don't think import tax is a thing. You know, when you go and get your game made overseas, you bring it over here, you've paid all your money, you think you're okay, and then it hits the ports, and suddenly you have to pay a chunk of money you didn't think you had to pay. And we've seen that kill projects. And it's full of pitfalls. I mean, Kickstarter is a fantastic thing. You know, it has done so much for this industry. The industry wouldn't be where it is now without Kickstarter. I guarantee it. But it's a wild horse. You know, you can't just jump on and assume you can have an easy ride. You've got to know how to play it. By the way, I'm feeling the hubris as I'm saying this. You know, launching a Kickstarter next week. I'm sure these words are going to come back and haunt me later. So keep this recording.
We are gonna, you know, none of this is going to be edited out.
Absolutely.
What is going to happen is that Sophie is going to get her own particular copy of this, and I'm just going to send her a little edited MP3 that she can then play.
Yeah, sounds about right, yeah.
From a phone.
Yep.
Or any location.
Just while looking at me.
Anytime. I'm going to do a tweet.
Yep.
Cut it down at you in it. And then Sophie can just repeatedly retweet it.
That's perfect. Yeah.
With your name. And just say, remember, this is what you said, dear.
Yep. Yep. I can see it now.
She'll use the kind of the D word.
Yep.
Jake, there's a market then for kind of like actual business services, business analyst services, kind of financial services to be jumping in, or are we still at that point where people are kind of getting about on their bare bums as far as money goes?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, one of the things that I keep hearing from people in the industry, especially the last month with, you know, self-assessment tax return season having just gone past us, is trying to find an accountant who understands Kickstarter is quite a challenge, because Kickstarter is a weird beast. A lot of people don't quite know what to class the pledge money as, because there's all sorts of stuff like, is it an investment, is it an income, etc., etc. And so I think the thing is, this industry has a lot of weird quirks and a lot of kind of best practice type knowledge, so things where people have just shared the correct way of doing things, the best way of doing things, which might not be in any way right. So, I mean, I would love to see some people step up and say, hello, I'm a person who has experience in the tabletop games industry. I know how Kickstarter works. I know how fulfillment works. I can help you make your business work. That'd be fantastic. I mean, that yes, please, basically. Get in touch.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's budgeting in that and actually paying for the services.
That is the thing. Well. It's trying to it's the old thing. You know, accountants pay for themselves, but convincing a small business that that's the case is difficult because they have to put the money down initially. And I think the same kind of thing is going to be true here, where trying to convince a small, 1 to 5 person business that they need to spend a couple of £1,000s on someone to help them, shore things up and make everything nice and watertight and future-proof, that might be tricky. Yeah.
No, absolutely. In terms of yourself as a person in the creative side of things, are you always moving at like 100 miles an hour with terms of thoughts and stuff like that? Are you quite methodical? Because I know of some people who are creative people who, you could say the word, mechanical banana tree, and then they would go away and they would come back with kind of 10 ideas revolving a mechanical banana tree. Or are you the type of person that says, hang on, and you stop and then say, right, why are we even looking at this in the first place? You're quite methodical because you've got a hefty, healthy CV with regards to projects that you've been involved in. And it's a case of looking right down them and going, I'm envious of the type of imagination and obviously the work ethic that you must have put into this, because this is because imagination can only get you so far.
Yeah.
You must have a hell of a work ethic in order to kind of be able to kind of take something from an idea and then turn it into something which people are like not only saying, yeah, I'm going to buy this, but they're also going on the other side and saying, look, I'm actually enjoying this.
Yeah, I wish I was more methodical. I'm not at all. I am amazing at setting up systems and schemes and Trello boards and Kanban boards and various different, productivity things. And I've tried Pomodoro and all the different things there are. I wish I had systems that could keep me in check, because my brain takes off. It's like someone lights a rocket. If someone says an idea and it grabs me, I've had to pull over the car while driving before so I can scribble down notes. Because an idea suddenly hit me out of nowhere. Many a time. I don't know if Sophie actually mentioned this, but the number of times we'd be driving somewhere, and I would make us pull over at a services so that we could buy a notepad and pen, because I'd had the next big idea for the next thing I'm working on. I've got notepads full of scribbled, half-formed things, which I will immediately forget until a year later. I need a bit of paper and I find the notepad. Oh yeah, that's a cool idea. I should use that in something. But yeah, It's funny that, like you mentioned, the whole, quite a big CV of games. I massively deal with imposter syndrome. Thinking, well, I did a lot of games for Games Workshop, but frankly, they would sell regardless of what the game is like, because it's a Games Workshop game. Or Hellboy. Yeah, people are enjoying Hellboy, but it's a really cool IP and it's a really cool character, and of course people are going to buy a Hellboy game, And so yeah, I'm very gradually trying to come around to the idea that actually no, if you go look at the reviews and the opinions, people do enjoy the games that I write, and it's taken me a long time to accept that, but I'm gradually getting there. I mean, and like with the game we're doing now, this is kind of a litmus test, because this is a game which it lives entirely on its own merit. It's not an IP. It's not from a big studio.
Yeah.
If if this goes well, then that's it. Like I was at UK Games Expo. No, sorry, not UK Games Expo. It was Tabletop Gaming Live back in September in London.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was there with a game we've done for Atlantis Miniatures, who are a little teeny tiny, even smaller than us, miniatures company based somewhere around Derby, I think, or Leicester or somewhere. A guy called Dan, who's an amazing sculptor. He's recently been working with Ian Livingstone on a range of fighting fantasy miniatures. But we've been doing a tabletop skirmish wargame for him because he's got an amazing range of fantasy miniatures. And we had a mutual contact who put us in touch. And we've been very gradually... It's taken way longer than we wanted it to, but Dan is also way busier than he wants to be. So we're taking our time with it. But we've got this game, and I was demoing it at Tabletop Live, and it was the first time I really felt like part of like a proper game designer, which sounds weird, like sort of 6 years into my career of designing games full time. It was being at a show and showing off a game which wasn't tied to a massive company, it wasn't tied to a massive IP. It was, and people were enjoying it, and that was such a good feeling. And as we've been doing our little UK demo tour, we've done 3 dates now, 2 in Reading, 1 in Nottingham, where we've been demoing Robot Fight Club. Watching people enjoy that has been, again, so gratifying because it's a game which has no... it just stands on its merit. It's not a game that, it is based on anything else. And so watching people genuinely enjoy it and want to play it again, finally, it feels like, oh, actually, maybe I should do this for a living. Maybe this is the thing I should be doing.
How long was the conversation between yourself and Sophie before you kind of made the decision to go out on your own and create your own kind of product?
About 10 years, I think. It was a thing. I mean, from the moment we'd been going out for a little while and we've been working in the same thing because we were both Games Workshop store managers at the same time. We've always kind of worked in parallel. We used to keep it very, very quiet, not from our bosses or the company. Just if we were in meetings, we would not be any different than any pair of colleagues. We actually got dobbed in. One of our fellow managers phoned our boss to say, I think they're going out, because we'd popped into his shop to say hello. To which he was told, yeah, they have been for the last 5 years. Keep up. But yeah, so we've been, we've always kind of said, oh, one day it'd be great to kind of go into business ourselves. The original idea was we wanted to run our own game shop. We were living in London. There was not a decent independent gaming shop in West London selling, board games, trading cards, or, all the sort of TCGs, that sort of stuff. And we found a couple of locations we really liked, and we thought, oh, we could really do it. We could do it because, again, like you said earlier, we're people, we have a lot of drive. We know that if we set our mind to something, we will go and do it. And it was just the cost of setting up a business in London, and this was in around 2010, so just kind of post-recession, and it was not a great time for that sort of thing. So we'd been talking about going into business for ourselves roughly that long. We then moved up to Nottingham, and over the course of the next sort of 5, 6, 7 years, we were saying, oh, it'd be nice, one day we should do our own little games company. We could name it after the cat, or something like that. And eventually the final thing that did it, I was working at Games Workshop. I was working on the specialist games range, so Necromunda, Blood Bowl, Titanicus, and there was a lot of pressure. We were a very small department, and we had an awful lot of expectation from the fan base, which was absolutely justified, and a lot of pressure from various levels of management who all wanted the game to do different things. Some of them wanted it to be they wanted them to be an amazing introductory product. Some of them wanted it to be an amazing gateway into the main hobby. Some wanted it to be, a thing for long-term experienced people. And it all kind of filtered down. And I was having to make these games everything to everyone on an incredibly limited, budget and amount of time and this. And I was just kind of getting ground down by it. And then, very sadly, we lost one of my colleagues, a chap called Alan Bly, who was one of the head writers at Games Workshop. He passed away suddenly in his early 40s, and I just realised, oh my God, life can be scarily short, And if you want to do this, why the hell are you not doing it? And so, yeah, I think I went home, had a chat with Sophie. I've been saying for a little while I'm not particularly happy doing this. I think I'd known for a while it wasn't going to be a forever job. But, yeah, we were both kind of thinking we want to do something with our lives that means something, that has some kind of mark, some kind of impact. Obviously, within the realm of designing games, it's not like it's important work. But that was it. We just decided, you know what, the time is right. Let's do a leap of faith. And we've kind of done a few of those over our time. In moving to Nottingham, we didn't have jobs. We just kind of moved up here, knowing we wanted to be closer to this industry. We got temp work. I worked sorting out files in a psychiatric outpatients unit, which was thrilling for about a month.
Wow.
Sophie was working on a reception at night at a school. We would all, this is it. We've never been afraid to take a leap, knowing that if it screws up, we can reevaluate and move on. And now here we are.
What I want to know is, and let's talk about what we were meant to be talking about for the last 38 minutes.
Yeah.
I always do this. It's just one of these things. You know. We'll eventually get round to the reason that you're meant to be here. I would never ever make one of those. If I ever became like a major bad guy, and the hero was there tied to whatever, and I was about to burn them with liquid hot magma or whatever, I would probably take about 40 minutes actually getting round before I even discuss my plan. But that's even the type of thing. I guess I think one of the things I need to understand is with Robot Fight Club, how do you do the marketing if people aren't allowed to talk about Robot Fight Club?
What I really want to do, I really want to get, the QI sound effect when someone says the thing that's like the obvious line. Yeah. I want to get that and drop it into conversations for that joke. But I love it. Yeah, no. The first rule of Robot Fight Club is definitely talk about Robot Fight Club because robot fighting's kind of cool, right? Weirdly, we didn't like the Fight Club didn't. It wasn't an intentional link. There was robot fighting. We had the idea of like a school club thing, and that's what happened. And it wasn't until we'd already sort of written it up on the whiteboard as a potential logo idea. I was like, it does look a little bit like Fight Club. But that's probably fine, right? And so we've gone with it. And I mean, what's not to like? It's maybe doesn't quite sit well with the kind of friendly, positive bunch of happy kids doing a thing vibe that we've got elsewhere. But hey, that's fine.
I don't know if you've seen Paw Patrol recently. It's getting pretty dark.
I've got like significant questions about Paw Patrol. Who is funding the Paw Patrol? And where are the real emergency services?
I would just like. I mean, is this where we are? I mean, this is a dystopian future. I mean, everybody's talking about the slow and sudden erosion of public services.
That's it.
But I mean, Paw Patrol basically is showing us this is what we're going to happen, and it's an entire analogy for the fact that we're going to end up having people who technically aren't even trained correctly to do that job. They're not even, these are dogs. Are they going to be bringing in dogs? I mean,
and they're not even old dogs. I mean, these are young dogs. Admittedly, it means they can learn new tricks, but still, does that qualify them for an emergency services kind of role?
And obviously the fact is that they're only able to deal with one emergency at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the whole point. I mean, at any one point, I mean, I'm sure there's more than several.
Yeah.
Emergencies going to go on.
And I'm fairly certain.
And you're right.
Yeah, that Ryder kid, he should be at school. Why is he not in school? What's happened there? He's woefully undereducated.
Well, as I say, it's the erosion of social and public services. I mean, he probably doesn't even have anybody in the kind of a care system who's checking on him on his attendance. I mean, it's a very, very problematic show, James, and I think we're both in agreement that it has to be stopped.
When did you decide to set up the Paw Patrol podcast that's now been running for 357 episodes, whatever it is?
That thing kind of needs to happen, obscure. And next week we'll be talking We'll be talking Bagpoos and Mojo Swap Tops.
Don't. I mean, Sophie and I have been threatening for ages to do a podcast called Overanalyzing Bing, because Bing Bunny, there is a lot going on in that world that needs talking about. There is some weird stuff going on.
There is a lot to unpack in the fact that every single adult person in that entire series appears to be a stuffed toy.
Yep. So I'm not going to go into our full theory. I'll give you 3 words.
Okay.
Biodome social experiment.
Wow.
Yep. And I think there's a lot to unpack, and I think the fact that Mark Rylance has stepped away from the role of Flop, I think he knows how messed up the show is, and I think we should all take his lead.
I'm hearing, attachment disorder just screaming at me.
Yeah.
At the moment,
we could talk for hours on this, but
but we've got. How'd you play Robot Fight Club?
So what you do is you open CBeebies and you... No. So Robot Fight Club, let's go back to this. So Robot Fight Club is a 2-player game, which is it's like an arena combat fighting game. You each control a pair of robots, and it's so for a start you've got like a grid movement thing going on. So you have your 2 robots in an arena. The arena boards are randomly set up each time you play, so you have different arenas every time. And then you, as a player, have a control deck made up of 6 cards for each robot, so 12 cards in total. You're on each round, you're drawing a hand of 3 cards, or rather, you draw a hand of 3 at the start, and it replenishes throughout the game. But you are choosing one of your cards, placing it face down, and it's a simultaneous action selection situation. So both players pick one card, which means they're going to activate one of their robots per round. And each robot only has 6 potential activations in the deck. Once you've both revealed the cards you've chosen, the card with the highest speed goes first, and that lets you do some combination of moving and attacking with your robot. Unlike a lot of the kind of arena fighting games we've done in the past, there's no dice rolling, it's all card driven. And yeah, I know, right? Although it's a game where positioning is kind of key. So your robots have all got different amounts of armor on their different faces, so front, left, back, and right. And the position from which you're attacking has various impacts. Anyone who's played Gore Chosen, which was the little arena combat game we did for Games Workshop, there's some sort of design DNA, I think, in common between the two, because that was a game. It was arena fighting, but the real tactics or the real strategy to playing well was in movement and positioning, and that's kind of what's happening here as well. So basically you play like this. But what I should mention is before you play, you build your team of robots by there's a market, so you're going back and forth buying a card from the market, which will either be a robot chassis or one of a number of randomized upgrades. So you might pick a really fast robot and then outfit it with some heavier armor or force fields or things to make it more well-rounded, or you might outfit it with rocket boosters and things to make it even quicker. And then, you will prepare your second robot, and that could be a robot which pushes even further down a specialized niche or goes for a more well-rounded team kind of thing. What we've seen throughout testing, we've been testing this game for about 9 months in its current kind of iteration. There is so much variety in styles of play, and every time you play, it's different. And you fight until one of the robots on one of the sides is deactivated, at which point you reset and you play to the best of 3 bouts. And between those bouts, you get a chance to retool your robot, sell off some of your stuff, buy new things. And that's kind of the game in a nutshell, really. We're recording some lovely videos, of course, for the Kickstarter, which is going to show that all in much greater detail. So anyone who wants to know more should go to needycatgames.com/robotfightclub, all one word. And that's my pitch, my spiel, if you will.
And Bing doesn't come into that whatsoever, then.
Well, not in the base game. No, we held him back for the expansion, knowing that I will say we've got 6 robots in the core game, 4 in the expansion, because of course when you do a Kickstarter you can't just do a core game, can you? You have to kind of do a little bit extra as well. So we've got an expansion which increases it to it brings you a load of extra options and also introduces a 3 or 4 player mode. And in that expansion there are 4 new robots. We've designed 3 of them, and we're leaving the 4th open to a designer robot competition, which we're going to put out tomorrow, in fact. As we record this, it should already be out, I imagine, when this goes out. And the person who designed the robot we like the most will get one of the core pledge packages for the Kickstarter. And so who can say, Bing might appear. We could end up with a Bing Bunny with, I don't know, flamethrowers or something in the game. Who can say?
I'm just frantically scribbling down my ideas.
As is the correct thing to do.
My long-eyed ears. What kind of... Are you... In terms of with your situation before and your situation just now, is that you've been working with properties that already have a route to market, whether that be kind of Hellboy. I mean, the Kickstarter was already planned. Has there been a different approach for you to say, well, actually, we need to get the word out there, have people interested in it, and kind of start to market to that? And has that been for you, and for both of you, a new set of skills that you've had to learn, or were you aware of how kind of, how other campaigns have been run?
It's kind of going back a little bit to stuff I used to do. So before I was designing games properly, I was the community manager for Mantic Games. So I used to do all of the kind of marketing, engagement, spreading news, answering Kickstarter comments, all that sort of thing. So I was never involved in the setting up of a Kickstarter, but all the kind of running around and shouting about it from the rooftops, that was the thing I used to do a lot. So I've kind of been borrowing from 5-year-old knowledge. Although that said, in the last 5 years, so much has changed with how Kickstarter works. You have to be so much more precise in what you do, I think. Back then, you could put just about anything up, and as long as it looked vaguely competent, you'd be guaranteed to make a decent amount of money. Nowadays, there's so much more competition. One thing that if we had our time again, I definitely would have started promotion a bit sooner. I know we've got a small following already, but we would have preferred to have got the prototypes tidied away in time, got it out to a dozen people to preview it online, all that sort of thing, way ahead of release. And that's definitely been a challenge, because in an ideal world, we would have paused everything else we're working on just to solely focus on this. Unfortunately, bills need paying, food needs to hit the table. So we are still working on, currently 2 other projects. And I think, unfortunately, that has just eaten a chunk of time we would have liked to have devoted to just spraying this far and wide. I mean, thankfully, one thing that is nice is, because we have spent the last 2.5 years working with a lot of people, helping a lot of people out, doing a lot of things, generating quite a lot of goodwill. There's been quite a sudden outpouring of help and support. So people are kind of now stepping up, saying they're willing to spread word far and wide, give us little shout outs and shares and that sort of thing. So fingers crossed. Basically, one way or another, this is going to be a very influential Kickstarter. This is going to be quite a turning point, because this is either the it might just fund, and that's fine. It'll carry on. It might fail, which is another thing, of course, we're having to consider, in which case we have to then consider what we do next. Or it might be the thing that lets us take on some staff, buy some desks that don't make our backs want to die. I can buy a computer so I can take my actual computer home again. There's a lot of stuff. This is a really interesting time for us. This is like, I would love to buy some new shoes. It's been a long couple of years. I don't know. I think if I had my time again, as I say, I think we would definitely have done a lot more of a focus on marketing a lot sooner. But hey ho, here we are now. We'll see how it goes.
It's so difficult to tell.
It really is. Because we've got no context.
I was literally speaking to somebody about well, literally speaking to somebody. That's so rude. I was speaking to Rob Sparks about Tinderbox.
Yeah.
Which is Alley Cat Games.
Yeah.
And he's going to be going, what? You only speak to me roughly about 10 minutes ago and you've forgotten my name already. How dare you? You just cast me aside like some kind of used husk, Rob.
The life of a serial podcaster.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they rocked up with Tinderbox and Kitten and released it on Kickstarter, and they were looking for, I think it was about $5,000 or $6,000, and they're setting up at like 25.
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah.
I don't know how that's got there, and yet and I see I still see other companies kind of getting by, and I see other companies kind of launching something, and for some reason there's like air currents underneath it, and you're looking up at it 10,000
you really
feet
cannot tell. And I mean, the thing is, one thing we wanted to do from the start was we didn't want to take a big risk. I mean, there's always the temptation to lowball a Kickstarter, bring your funding target down a fair bit and hope that you do well, because there's always that thing people say, well, if you can fund on day one, that looks better than not, but we really didn't want to. We want to play this safe. We want to make sure if it funds, then we can deliver on every promise. We can do that. But it's like you say, you never know where it's going to go. We have got no context. This could be something which funds in an hour, or it could be something which doesn't fund at all. I won't lie, it's utterly nerve-wracking. If I still had any hair, I would have lost it by now. But thankfully, that's been gone for some time now.
What's going to be the price of entry then? Have you got kind of costings and things like that kind of all finalised, or is that still going through? Because I know it sounds like it's like, well, it's going to be launching very, very soon. It's like, but anything I know people who have like rerun the figures 20 million times and then went, we need to add in this, or we can actually take this down a little bit.
I am sick of spreadsheets. I've been in so many sort of calculations along these lines, and we've got various other people we know in the industry who have looked at it for us as well. So we think we're looking at it's going to be somewhere. The core game on the Kickstarter is going to be somewhere between £25 and £35, and the retail version will probably be about £5 more than that. But it's just coming down now to a sort of point of finesse of where exactly is the sweet spot, because I mean there are so many things. You have to look at so many different scenarios, because with the vagaries of print runs and everything else, if your print run options are 1,000 or 2,000. If you sell 1,005 copies, you kind of screw yourself. So you have to kind of cover yourself for those eventualities. I mean, there is an inherent risk in Kickstarter. Whatever you do, there's always it's a bit of a gamble. So you kind of have to look at your best case and worst case scenarios and kind of find something in the middle there. So I imagine we're going to be tweaking and finalising numbers until it's time to hit that launch button. But for now, it's somewhere around that sort of thing. I think what we're looking at is that'll be the core game. Will be between 25 and 35. There's going to be like a core pledge, which is the core game, the expansion. We're doing a little second, just like a little card expansion, which is a nice little easy add-on thing. And I imagine the whole thing all in one is going to be around £60 as like the sort of sweet spot. You get everything pledge, but we want to make sure that there is. I've never been one to design games where you need all the extra add-ons and bells and whistles. When we did Hellboy for Mantic, I didn't want the retail core game to feel like a stripped-back version of the proper game that was on Kickstarter. I wanted the core game to feel like a cool thing, and then the Kickstarter extras to feel like a cool extra thing as well. So, we've worked very hard to make sure the core game is really cool, and then the extra stuff is extra stuff that you will want. So hopefully that'll come across. We kind of, like in a lot of things we do, we're going to sort of wear our heart on our sleeve, I think, with this one, and just be very honest with people and say that this is a game we want to make. Here's what we want to charge you for it. If you want to support us, please go ahead. We've kind of built this company on just being honest and upfront. I mean, we've never been ones for big, glossy, high production values or corporate approach or anything. We are James and Sophie, and we will continue to be James and Sophie. And James and Sophie don't always know exactly what they're doing when it comes to things like prices. But hey ho, we'll figure it out.
However, where can we find James and Sophie if we've been listening along tonight and we want to find out where you exist on the internet webs? Well,
if you do any kind of Google for Needy Cat Games, it's a very Googleable name. But needycatgames.com, that's NEEDYCATGAMES, which I'm sure you can put in the show notes. That's our website. That's like our nerve center that gives you links to all the things that we do. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as Needy Cat Games. You can find us there. If you look up Robot Fight Club on Kickstarter, we were finally approving the page today, so it might be up on Kickstarter by the time this goes live. Who can say? On the sort of preview, check this out mode. If you look on Facebook, there's a Robot Fight Club fans group, which is actually quite a fun place to be. There's a lot of chat about the game already, which is nice. We've got people that have tried it out at the demo days. We've got people who are posting GIFs of their favourite robots. I mean, what's not to like there? But yeah, generally, if you look up Needy Cat Games or Robot Fight Club, you will find us, I hope. Don't just Google James Hewitt, because you'll find all sorts.
And we will make sure, I'm not going to, and we will make sure that we put all of the links in the show notes.
Lovely.
So that you have got notes to show. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, just go to the internet webs and search for We're Not Wizards, and you'll find us in all the different worn out places and faces, but not people called Stacys. And if you like what you've listened to tonight, then please go to the internet webs and tell somebody about us, because that's how we spread. I was going to say by skin to skin contact, but I've already said that. By sniffing certain flowers, you'll find us as well. If you like us a lot, you can go to the Apple Podcasts, and we've been going about 4 years, so we think we're worth at least a 4 star-wise, I think.
That's how it works.
Maybe. That is...
Yep.
Well, if it's based on the number of episodes I've done, I should have about 150 stars. Silly fool that I am. And, yeah, thank you very much. But thank you very much, James, for coming on the show. I can only wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you.
Endeavour.
It's been a lovely chat. I enjoy a nice rambly podcast. You know, I listen to a lot of rambly podcasts, and I enjoy being on them. So thank you very much.
There is only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, James?
We are not. No.
Well, that's what I kind of expected. You know, anything else?
That's good.
Anything else? I'd be having words.
I thought this was the We Are Wizards podcast. Have I come to the wrong one?
Just stop now.
I'll stop.
You can do a lot of damage with some good editing. And the second thing is to say goodbye. It's a goodbye from the rather wonderful, rather fantastic Mr. James Hewitt. Say goodbye, James.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, and look, just tell everybody about Robot Fight Club, you fools. Until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.